Oh man, what a day. What an actual odd last couple of days. If this is your first time watching, I want to say welcome. Don't do this. Don't use packing tape. It's bad. Leaves a sticky residue on everything and I gotta clean it off. If this is one of your times that you've come back to follow along with what's going on with the saga, I want to say welcome back. It means you're a repeat offender and a stalker. That's okay. We like stalkers over here. We do. So, just to give you a quick rundown on this, and then we're going to go off and talk about a bunch of other stuff because you guys have all seen me do this 100 times. What we've got ourselves here is a beautiful example of a 4-power Tx-600 bilinear amplifier. Our faceplate is not connected. Our switches are all worn out in the front. It has literally the most interesting power wire configuration here in the back that we got to go through. The guy says that this thing is working, and he wants me to make it work better. And I said to him, okie doke. So that's what we're going to do. And in the interim, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about some stuff. This has been an interesting last couple of days for me. What happened to my nuts? What happened to my nuts? What happened to my blue nuts? So when I get the little piss-ass wires like this in on an amp, and I just want to hook them up and make sure the thing's actually working, I have these wire nuts. And I've had the same wire nuts for there it is. I've had the same wire nuts on this exact same jumper set of wires now for 6-7 years. There it is. I can put you back later. So I can add some addictomies to it, basically. Okay, here's our 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can add, off our little short stubbies in the back, we can add some actual, get it over here in frame where everybody can see it working. Length of wire. So let's hook this up here real quick, run it through the gambit, and then we'll figure out what we got to do to it. Tell you, I set my shop on fire today and I couldn't be happier. I got this little tiny Miller like 125 wire feeder. It's good for doing stuff up to about 16 gauge. Okay, it's just a little tiny little tiny buzz box, plug it into 110, wheel it out in the driveway, go weld up my buddy's a little piece of metal on his trailer or whatnot. I used it the other day to weld up one of my wife's lady friends' horse trailers. We had to add some chain link on the inside of the trailer so that she could get feed bags hung up inside her slant load. I was using it the other day and the wire was just spatting and sparting and spitting and popping, and I'm like, man, this thing is, man, what the hell? Now, I originally had it set up for flux core. And I went out and I got the regulator, the valve kit. I'm not a big flux core fan. It's just so dirty, right? I'm not a big fan. It works great. It's just not my bag of wax, you know. By the way, this is a 1 driving 4 Toshiba, basically a Texas Star. And it has been repulled, and I can tell, multiple times, by the way. Right now it's acting like it doesn't have any power. Well, I wouldn't do anything if fuses are bypassed. Let's Make sure we got power on the inside of this thing. So it wasn't running very well for me the other day, and I'm like, man, I couldn't get the wire to penetrate the way I wanted to, and I'm like, what in the hell? What's wrong with this thing? So today, I decided we are going to get to the bottom of this. Well, we got 12 volt there. I got 12 volt here. All the lamps blown out in this thing. Oh, it doesn't even have any light bulbs in it. No light bulbs. Hopefully I got enough. The last time I went to go buy light bulbs, we were out. Of course, that was right in the middle of the beginning of the Corona thing, and nobody could get anything. Okay, so we're going to go with the fact that it's working. Let's go here. We'll turn on the 2950. Okay, it's powered up. Preamp's working. So I converted it over to solid core, and after about 45 minutes of dicking with it and having weld spatter go everywhere and all over the place, I've got a series of rugs out here on the shop floor. They're black and white, and I've had them since, let's see, I bought them when I was in my third apartment, when I was in my 20s. And they're just cheap roll-up rugs, right? So I didn't think anything about it, and I put a piece of metal in the vise and went to Welding and started testing. Well, meanwhile, I got weld splatter going every goddamn direction. So I'm standing there welding, and I'm like, man, why are my feet getting so warm? Yeah, I caught my carpet on fire. I'm not even ashamed of that. I'm standing right there by the door, and door's open, so just take the carpet, pull it outside, put the fire out, throw the carpet away. Okay. Underneath that's cement. So I'm sitting there, well, I played with every setting, and I mean, I've got the heat all the way to the max. I couldn't get it to penetrate the way I wanted it to. It seems like the weld's sitting on top of the pipe, and I could not for the life of me, because I do this, the amp thing, more than I do the weld thing, even though I did the weld thing for so many years. My brain didn't want to put the pieces together in its head. And I'm like, man, there's got to be something wrong. It was just spurging, and the wire feed was, you know. I thought, well, I'm going to check my wheel. I flipped the door up on the side of the welder. And once you know it, I got the polarities backwards on the... sitting there looking at the connecting terminals on the inside of the welder. I'm like, oh my God. There's a diagram. It says 4 flex core have wires hooked up this way, and that's for the electrode to be ground. And then if you're, this is for the electrode to be positive. I had it backwards. I flipped it around, went back over to my test metal, and bzzz, I mean, just bzzz, perfect line of dimes. I mean, smoothed out dimes it is anyhow. Okay, so let's get ourselves a unit of measure here. Focus, there we go. Okay, 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 in average, 5 watt slug and reverse. I was so excited. I'm like, yay, I don't have to take my welder apart and figure out what's wrong with it. I'm just an idiot, yo. You get to a certain point in life where you're just kind of comfortable with the fact that, I forgot something. But I figured it out, you know? All right, let's see if we can talk through it. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 average, 5 watt slug and reverse. Now we got to go in forward. Hello. Okay. So we are talking through it. Hello, hello, hello. Keys up. Hello, audio. 400 whole watts swinging back. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. It's medium. Hello, low. Oh, it is working, but it's being a turd. All right, let's get out our FLIR. Ooh, our combiner's hot. Like really hot. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. And hello, 1, 2. Oh. That looks really hot on camera, doesn't it? The combiner is at 74 degrees. The ambient room temperature is at 65. Yeah, huge temperature gradient. Yeah, we're not going to worry about that. Okay, so let's go through and we're going to rework this. We're going to replace all of the junky coax that's in here. We're going to put, come here. Let's show you what we're going to do here. We're going to replace our power wires, of course. This is the best of the best of the best of the best coax right here. This is RG58 Superior Insulated Wire, directly out of the bottom of somebody's Palomar from the 1970s. This piece, and this piece. We're going to go and replace it with good, brand new RG316. We're going to give it a power wire upgrade with this distribution network. We're going to get rid of all of our strainer leaves in the back. We're going to put good sized power wire feeding this amp, which does, in certain applications, pull well up to 100 amps worth of current. So this kind of horse shit don't cut it. We're going to clean it up. There's a couple different things in here I don't like. This setup here, we're going to look at that. I'm going to fully disconnect the faceplate and repair this. And we're going to put new switch covers on it. So let me get set up for that. Add to wish list, add to wish list, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. Well, they've got the select a watt switch, which, okay. Let's see, do we got lights? Splitters, lights, knob, lens, covers, lamps. Out of stock, LEDs. Out of stock. This is what we're looking for. This right here, out of stock. So let's see, what's the other guys that I always used to use? Let's see, Burke, Hart, Brothers. Barquette, that's it. This guy is cool. I mean, he's cool. I spent a ton of time on the phone with this guy. He is super, super nice man. Nothing but love and respect. Okay, we're gonna order 10 of these. And 10 of these. And 10 of these. Out of these. Not rated, not rated. Compare with downlight green. Okay, Texas Star, select a watt. Nope. Add to cart. We don't have enough Texas Star lane covers in stock on hand for the quantity you've selected. Great. Well, that's something. All right, let's see here. Did you ever get any more lamps in? He's got a few of these, not rated. We'll say 5 lamps. Do you have this many in stock? Survey says yes. Okay, so we'll say 10. Update quantity. Failed to add item insufficient in stock. Okay. Let's do another search. Maybe CB Distributing's got them. I didn't think about that. They got a preamp cover. You guys would be surprised how much of my time I spend doing just this, trying to hunt down parts. Simple parts, lamps, light bulbs, on-off switches, so on and so on. They got meters, supposedly. Third party, third party, third party, third party. So we used to be able to go to Barcat Electronics, and you could go get, you would go to faceplates, or you go to knobs, or the buttons, I mean. Meters, fuse holder, fan, faceplates, covers, and heat sinks. Combiner, splitters, chokes. What do they got over here for covers and heat sinks? Okay. Still got a couple things. Anyhow, you used to be able to come here and you could go buy a complete kit that looks like this. This is the last one of these I have. And it's perfect for this amp. But usually when I get down to the last one or two of something that I have, I want to go buy a bunch more. Because God only knows I've got enough Texas stars here to gag a maggot, right? They're completely out of all of these. They're selling them by the individuals. You used to be able to go buy the whole kit for like 10 bucks. I'd buy like 10 kits and just have them in the drawer. Okay, I gotta call him. These guys are super cool. Let's get back to the task at hand. So the other thing is I went and looked at how many lamps I have available. This thing has no lamps in it whatsoever. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm pretty sure one of those is probably blown, knowing my luck the way this is going to go. And we've got a faceplate, the push button replacement. This heatsink is bent in significantly here. And I don't know if I want to pry that back out or what I want to do. But that fin's got to come back out. And this thing's just an old girl. She's had a good life. And our job here is just to make it look pretty and clean and new again, which we're going to do our due diligence to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the meter out. So we're going to disconnect these two leads here. Well, I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Mine was very interesting. It was weird not having everybody around. Normally my family and I, we all get together and do a big old shindig soiree, and it just didn't. My sister and her family did their little thing, and I did mine, and it was just different. We made all the same food, but it was just weird. But it was nice. It was quiet. I didn't answer my phone all day. I didn't talk to anybody all day. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of spent most of the day just kind of chilling out, and my wife spent most of the day chilling out after she got done cooking, and my kid did the same thing. We just kind of chilled. So weird not having to see the family. It was just weird. You know what I mean? So in the back of my mind all the way through Thanksgiving, I'm thinking to myself, why can't I get this sb220 sold? So let's talk about that real quick. Now, I want to just go into this and I want to make it very clear. I'm not going to say anything negative about anybody. It's not the way I roll. It's not the way I work. Never have been this way or been that way. Never going to be that way. So what happened on the first bid is I put it up for bid, and I recognize that when I do a big long set of YouTube videos like that, everybody tunes in and they want to see beginning to end in one video. That's the way human nature is, okay? I am sensitive to that. I get that. I understand that that's the way most people are. If I did a beginning to end video on that, it would have been 9.5 hours long. YouTube would have shoved it off on the back shelf of the internet, and nobody would have ever watched it. if you watch the retention time, otherwise how long you guys sit and actually are willing to watch, my retention time to most of my friends that have got really huge, successful YouTube channels is horrid. Because people will show up, they click into watch, and they'll usually either fast forward to the end to see how the project came out, or they'll click onto another video because they got bored, which is fine. You know, that's fine. So, if I was to do a big, long video on that thing, you guys would have had to sit through hours upon hours upon hours of... No, so I broke it up into small pieces. And the end result of that is when I brought out part 5, the end piece, it didn't get a lot of views. Like, you could sit there and you could watch the view count slowly kicking down in the reverse. It's like the first one come out, I got 5,000 views on it. Then the second video came out and it got like 3,000 views. And the third video came out and it got 2,000, 2,500 views. And by the time we got around to the 5th one, it only got like 1,900 views. Everybody tuned out. They're like, how many flipping parts is this? And then their brain was like, oh yeah, I'll just tune in to see how it turns out later. So here I go, okay, it's done. We're done. We're going to put this up for sale now. I only had a small portion of my audience bidding on it. Well, that's good, because I wanted it to go to somebody that really cared. I'm like, really honestly cared. Had the good intentions in their heart. They were motivated in the right way. And the very first question out of their mouth wasn't going to be, hey, can you mono band it for 11? That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be what it was. A very special, very unique, very rare unicorn. The downside was the quantity of time all of this took, which was breathtaking for me. I built it over a 2-week span, and that's working on it anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day. And what I mean by working on it is shooting the video, sitting down, creating the videos for it, rendering, get them on the computer. All that is the same work path, work timeline. So the hours start stacking up on this thing. It starts stacking up hard. And I'm okay with that. My intention wasn't to come after this and go, oh, I'm going to make gobs of money. Because I'm not going to. I wanted to be able to have the life experience of saying I'd done this. I wanted to be able to have the opportunity to share it with everybody. That was my motivation. In the same breath, I'm thinking, God, I gotta kind of get back over here and get on topic on this other stuff, or I'm going to end up being upside down. As a business person, it is fun to kind of carry on and conduct yourself in the manner of, it doesn't matter what I'm doing today, I'm in charge of my own world. Yeah, well, the only time you get to be in charge of your own world is as long as you got enough money to pay for all your other bills and overhead and everything going on with it, right? So I'm like, I'm starting to run out of time for this project. So the part 5 sequence of that video, I could have broken it up into probably 2 more sequences, but I was like, I got to be done. So I pushed on and got the time down to 0 on it and finished it. So we opened it up for the bidding process. And one of the very first people that contacts me, he set the bid, his top bid was going to be $8,000. He goes, if anybody beats me, just call me, I'll pay you more. I'm like, okay. You actually have that amount of money to spend on this? Because I'm not, in my head, that's way over the top. Like, silly over the top. It's not worth that amount of money, and I felt very uncomfortable about that. And so the guys that called, I'm kind of quietly telling them on the phone, I'm like, hey, they're calling, they're like, well, we can go to $3,500 on that. I'm like, no. I said, I'm just going to tell you the honest to God truth. Just stop. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, just stop. I got a guy that's wanting to bid a ton of money on it. They're like, okay, we understand. So basically everybody backed off. So the bidding time ends, and of course the one guy that dropped the big giant number on me, and in the entire time in my head I'm keeping track of who called me. Right? I'm saying, okay, what I'll do is, if this falls apart with this other guy, I can just go back to the last highest bidder that was sincere and actually had money, if this guy doesn't end up being to be truthful. And I'll say, hey, guess what? The other guy didn't come through, blah, 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 blah. I get on the phone with this guy, and it all sounds legit, but then he says he wants to pay me with a check. I don't like checks. There's too much that can go wrong with checks. For instance, guy sends me a check. I take and cash the check. Then I go and I pay out all the money that needs to be paid out to all the different places that need to go on with having a check come in. Then I take the money and I move it, let's say, into PayPal, and then go and ship the amp off. It gets all the way on the other side of the country. Now he has up to 30 days to say that, no, I didn't mean to write that check. Give me all that money back. All of a sudden, I'm completely upside down. The equipment has been shipped across the country. I have nothing to hold on to or retain it. And I don't do checks. I just don't do checks. Pay me with PayPal or credit card. That way everybody's got an instantaneous receipt. There's tracking numbers with everything, so there's no questions. It's all above board that way. I told him, man, I don't feel comfortable with that. I said, I need you to pay me with a credit card or with PayPal. Now, I'm still holding out hope, because I'm not a cynical human being. I'm really trying not to be a cynical human being here. I'm pulling out hope. This is the worst time of the year. I should have done this in the middle of summer. There's foam and shit stuffed up inside of here. The frig. Try not to be cynical. I'm trying to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. So I'm talking to him every day. He's like, okay, tomorrow I will set up my PayPal account. So that day comes and goes. Meanwhile, business has still got to go on over here as normal. I'm still getting 30, 40 phone calls a day. Doing my thing. So he calls me and says, well, I'm having a problem with PayPal. I'm having a problem with my card, blah, 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 blah. And he laid it all out on what was going on with him. And I'm like, okay, that sounds reasonable. And it sounded, honestly, like the way this guy manages his money, either he's incredibly rich or he read something on the internet that told him to tell people this is how he manages his money, so he can look important or cool or whatever. The long story short, very long, drawn out, 2-week-long process without divulging anything personal about this person was, I don't care who you are or how much money you got. If you can't get your credit card to be validated with PayPal within 2 weeks of amount of time, you don't have any money. Bottom line. I waited 2 weeks. Now that's 2 weeks of racking up time, accumulated time that's you've already paid out. What I ended up doing is I just came along and I paid the guy that sent me the kit outright out of my own pocket. Because I don't like being in that position. It's not honorary to be in that position. So the people were calling and bidding that thing up. I stopped it at $3,900 is where we ended out the first time. To me, that was a reasonable amount of money. I knew how much the guy that actually sent me the kit wanted to get money-wise. I knew what I had to get to make my end be covered. $3,900 was spot on the money. So it's not like I went and I ran the thing way up. Just being transparent with everybody. So couldn't get it paid. You guys understand that when I run the bidding process, that time that you spend, one, shooting a YouTube video saying, hey, we're going to bid this thing out again. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Editing that video, putting it up, and then the time on the phone. Now, the other thing that has happened since I built the sb220 is when I first built that sb220, you could turn your radio on day or night up here, and it was dead silence, 24/7. It had been that way for months. Quiet. Now, what has happened to my phone, on the other hand, in that amount of time has been very interesting. I went from getting 75, 80 phone calls-ish on average per day down to about 10 on average per day. The skip's not rolling. Nobody's thinking about let's talk it on our radios. They turn the radios on, there's nothing out there, they turn them back off again. Okay? I finish the sb220, and literally the next day, the sun decides it's going to wake up, and it starts spitting off solar flares, and our solar wind speed goes up. And the day after that, the skip starts rolling, and channel 6 turns on, channel 11 wakes up, 26915 wakes up, everything turns back on. Channel 28 lights up, the HF bands totally come alive, 10 meters jumps open, 12 jumps open, everything jumps open. Now, we've been dealing with this for a while. Skip shows up, then goes away. Skip shows up, then goes away. 15, 20-minute windows. And I mean turn on and run. All day. I went, uh-oh. And what I mean by I went, uh-oh, is I knew that when that happened, my phone was going to go to 11. And it ran all day long. Not complaining. I think it's good. The next day, my phone rang like 100-something times with different phone numbers. Okay? The day after that, guess what? Skip ran again all day long. 3 days in, Skip's still running all day long. 4 days in, Skip's still running most of the day. 5 days in, Skip's still running most of the day. My phone went from 0 to a hero overnight. It happens. It's the nature of the beast of being in this job. Meanwhile, the people that called and tried to bid the first time around, their numbers are going farther and farther and farther and farther and farther and farther back the list. Smartphones are pretty cool. This is really cool. Scroll back. On your normal phone, the normal guy's phone, you can scroll back a long ways. But when you have 100 incoming calls, 100 outgoing calls, that's 200 pieces of information per day. Skip kept rolling. And finally, I told this guy, I said, look, if you can't get this situation fixed by Monday, after Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you know. Now we're talking business days, so we'll say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I said, Monday afternoon, I need to have a result if you're going to be able to take care of this or not. Okay? I feel that's being more than fair. That's actually being really kind. Not getting upset about anything. Monday rolled around, never hear from him, 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 never hear from him. I called him. He finally admits that he's not going to be able to get this done. So now what I'm looking at is yet another 2 full day loss. Okay, now I'm going to sit down, I'm going to shoot the video, I'm going to put it up for auction, and then deal with my phone constantly, which I proceeded to sit down and do, which is an additional 2 days worth of loss. The problem is I could not scroll back in my phone far enough and make sense of who was who when they called me 2.5 weeks previous to be able to offer it up to the next previous bidder. This guy, string, carrot, donkey, led me along for 2 weeks because I'm trying to be a nice guy. So, you know, you come to the conclusion, okay, well, this thing's got to go from here. I'm not interested in owning it. I just wanted to be able to have to do it. So I had to put it up for auction again, and we work our way all the way through that. 2 day more loss. Didn't get anything done yesterday, didn't get anything done the day before that, just sat here and dealt with the phone. Mondays are the worst around here, because Monday morning everybody's calling. And I mean every stinking body. Which is fine, I just sat out here, and it's mentally exhausting. I don't know if you guys have ever played a game with your friend where you could have 20 of your friends call you continuously all day long and ask you random questions about different subjects that are way off the wall but are in the same field. You're pretty mentally chooched out by the end of the day. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. You're just mentally exhausted, just very tired. Monday, Tuesday, today's Wednesday. Phone slowed down enough today. Of course, Skip ran fairly light today. It only ran for about 4.5 hours. It's now 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I called this guy yesterday thinking I'd be able to get to this yesterday. So, still a day behind, as always. I call it the BBI effect. Everything takes 200% longer over here than it would anywhere else. Because that damn dirty, rotten phone. I'm telling you. So, I'm proud to say that I was able to find a guy that was serious, knew how to manage his own wealth and well-being and pay his bills like an adult, and took care of business. He called me with a realistic number. My other gentleman that I had that was interested in this thing, he was from Canada, and I got them both on the phone. So I closed out the bidding, and I got both these guys on the phone, and I said, okay, this is where we're at, this is what we've had happen, so we're going to proceed forward. I wanted to tell both of you guys that you're both in the forefront for this thing. You know, you're both in the, you know, you're both, the difference was like $100. And I said, okay, so in all fairness, the way this is going to work is, because I don't know if you guys have ever had to import anything to Canada before. It's a challenge. Isn't this entertaining? This is all the stuff that you don't ever get to see me do on camera because it's boring as frig. It's a challenge, to say the least. And just to get a quote, you got to go through a brokerage firm. I mean, you don't have to. You can do all the import and export brokering, or the import brokering yourself. But we use FedEx has usually got the easiest system for us to do this with. So we ran it through FedEx, which took half the day. And then we came around and we did the other guy's quote. The thing is with Canada, something that, let's say you're going to pay $1,000 for here in the United States, they want lots of proof and documentation. It's not like here in the United States where you get to just say what the value of something is. No, they require you to have paperwork, and they're really serious about their migrant issues up there, by the way, too. Like, this guy decided to drive over the border, let's say, and drive down here to the land of the free and the home of the brave, and pick up his amp, and then drive back over the border into Canada. They take you when you come into Canada as a citizen, and they say, great, you're going to go into a 14-day quarantine. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't care if you're feeling good or not. Now, there's two different ways they do it. sub-provinces, they're locking you up and they're taking you to a government-run facility, and then when you get out of there, you get a bill. You know, you get a bill for being in their facility to be monitored to see if you've got this nasty little bug. Or they make you be at home. So this poor guy just wants an sb220, right? No, driving across the American-Canadian border to come get it is not an option. So therefore we had to look at the shipping thing, and he told us what his cap was, that if we went over this cap, right now the exchange rate going from Canada to America is disgusting, by the way. So going from American dollars to the Canadian Canuck it's a little rough. I'll say that much. And so I told him, I said, you know, if we can't get this going up to my friend up here in Canada, we're going to come back around, and I'm going to come back over to my other friend here in the United States. And it's all simply because of money. It has nothing to do with, so the shipping, the import tariff, all the stuff going on to get it into Canada would have put it well over $1,600 to $1,800 to get that thing brought into Canada, which unfortunately put our first customer. There's a silver lining to this story, you guys. So just hang on. The guy that actually ended up buying it was a really, really cool gentleman. I'm not going to say where he works, but I will say that thank you for looking out for our better well-being here in the United States, and I appreciate your service. Even though it's not military, it's still right on the front lines of things that are happening today. Let's give this one more wipe through. Clean. I appreciate your service and trying to protect all of us in the country. But neat guy, very tender, sensitive individual that ended up buying this thing. Good-hearted, honest individual. And just really super impressed. I was really impressed with the quality of people that came forth yesterday and wanted to participate on bidding on that thing. And the professionalism of the way the people conducted themselves that actually did show up and got involved with that process. Grateful, very grateful for it. So I called the guy in the United States, tried to get them both on the phone at the same time. It just didn't work out. One guy ended up having some other scheduling conflicts, but told the guy I was from Canada, I'm sorry. It's outside of your budget reasons, for the shipping reasons only. And he said, okay, thank you. And he said some other things that I'm going to keep private between me and him for me to tell the guy that actually ended up purchasing it. Well, the guy that actually ended up purchasing it, he did something I've never seen another guy do before. They're both amateur operators, right? They're both ham radio guys. And the guy that got the amp, it just made me stop for a minute. And I was like, man, now that is what makes radio cool. He says to me, he goes, well, I don't care what happens. I have an extra sb220 sitting here that I'm probably never going to use now that I own this one. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it to the guy in Canada. Free. I was like, damn. So think about this for a minute. They didn't, 5 minutes ago or 2 hours ago, they didn't know each other from Adam. And they're both amateur operators, right? And that's where I wanted it to go, was into the amateur community, somebody that was going to really love and cherish it and recognize what it was, right? I gave everybody else's contact information, and I just walked away with a smile thinking, Wow, that's really neat. I mean, that's really, really neat. The end result is, out of all of this, the end result from this was, I have made some really, really cool people. I made new friends out of this whole thing. The guy I sold it to, the guy that I ended up not being able to sell it to, Mr. Tate, 8NJXW, this guy, Mr. Tate, who worked at Heathkit for all those years. You know, it's led to a whole bunch of very interesting conversations on Facebook and in the comments and stuff. I ended up meeting this guy named Jerry. Jerry's Electronics. Freaking kick-ass guy, dude. World's largest Heathkit owner. He owned or owns 7,000 or 8,000 pieces of Heathkit equipment. A ton of parts. His name's Jerry. He's out of Ohio. And he explained to me that when he goes to Dayton Hamfest, he usually had to take, when he would go to Dayton Hamfest, he's an older man now, he would take 4 40-foot long semi-tractor trailers full of stuff to the Hamfest every year. Owned like 1,700 cars in his life. I mean, I spent an hour and a half with him on the phone yesterday, in amongst all the other stuff that was going on, because I was so intrigued by this guy. Didn't know who he was from Adam until we did that sb220 video. The friendship and the networking thing to me is invaluable, right? I was just tickled, absolutely tickled with how the things worked out, and it worked out for the better. You know, the first guy, I want to believe in my heart of hearts that he had the best intentions at heart, and it just didn't work out for him the way he's managing his funds. I'd love to believe that. Also, the cynic inside of me goes, nope, bag of dicks. Like I said, I'm going to take that mojo, throw it away. That's not the kind of guy that I like to be. I'm just going to believe with the fact that I'm just going to go with it in my mind, telling myself in my mind he just wasn't able to quite get it pulled together to get his credit card to sync up, and we're going to leave it there. But it turned out to be so much better, and I had so much more fun with it. I sat down and did the math today. As being a business owner, you have to think about all kinds of different things. You have to think about all kinds of things all the time. Like the amount of time you put into each project versus what it actually pays out to you versus what it pays to the company. Anybody that's a truck driver knows exactly what I'm talking about. The truck driver's entire life is spent doing basically cost, mile, fuel, maintenance analysis. All the time, 24/7, everything they do. From when they hit that key and they leave the house till they get back home, that's what a truck driver's life is, especially if you're an owner-operator. Well, owner-operator, period. The guys that are out there working for somebody, twisting the key for pennies per mile or cents per mile, whatnot. That's not quite as a heavy thought. They're all about how many miles they can burn. But the owner-operator is really all about to the truck, to the fuel mile card, to the com card, to the friggin' to me. What's this going to pay to me, right? What you guys just didn't get to watch was me to take that lid in the house and stand there at the sink with warm soapy water and wash it. It's vinyl, you guys. It's just nothing but vinyl. And it cleaned up pretty good. But now what we're going to use is some spray-on wax, and we're going to make it look really, really pretty. And the other thing the wax does is it helps seals the metal. This is crinkled vinyl, by the way. Okay. Inside of this tin is clean. There's no rust per se, for the most part. So I just went and I made this wet, and we dry it really well. But we want to seal up the pores of the metal just a little bit to try and keep it from corroding any further. But the only way to clean up the vinyl after we get all the oil and dirt off of it is we got to seal it with wax. Just put a little bit of spray on wax on it. Makes it all shiny and pretty and new, and it'll look like that for another 10 or 15 years, and then there won't be any more of these parts available to us. So this tin, all in all, was in really good shape. So just lightly spray this down with a little bit of wax, not a lot. Work it down in there. Work it down in there. And we'll set this aside and let it flash off and set, then we'll come back and repolish it again, buff it up. We're buffing vinyl, you guys, as silly as that sounds. So, back on topic. You got to be thinking about, am I physically doing anything here that is going to justify per hour of time what I'm doing? Think about it. I mean, it's fun. This job is fun certain times. It's very stressful. Very, very stressful, actually, most of the time. And it's very hard. The patience that you have to have at this job, doing what I do, I've never, ever had to extend as much patience as I do here for people. And that's what makes it hard. We're going to go in here, we're going to reflow all these solder joints that look like ass. Like chicken poo-poo. Make this look all pretty. I think that leg of the transistor was soldered down. Flow that in there. So what it boils down to is profit per hour over cost of manufacture. Just like it is at any other thing in this universe. And that 10 ohmer wasn't even soldered down. Huh. Well, that's soldered down now. When I did it, at the end of the project, I had to sit down and figure out exactly what that project cost for time versus dollars and so on. After it was said and done, I made less than $1 an hour. Okay. But the experiences and the contacts and all of that makes it worth it. So, you know, one guy came along and kind of made it a little bit of a bumpy road. So be it. It's okay. We're all adults. We're all going to live. It's going to be okay. That extra 2 days of no work out here, talk on phone, deal with phone, destroyed my opportunity to make any money on that. Cost me quite a bit of money, but it's okay. The point is, at the end of the day, you guys got a bunch of snazzy little videos to watch. The amateur and the radio community now has that completely documented forever, or until YouTube is no longer a thing and they end up deleting the archives someplace. But then again, there's lots of companies out there that back up every little square inch of the internet every day. So it's out there forever. My name's attached to it. I learned a ton from it. And that, honestly, is more profitable to me than how much money I put in my wallet at the end of the day. Clean the heat sinks. Resoldered everything. Now we're going to go and we're going to replace our coax connectors. Faceplate's off. We're going to go reattach it after I clean it. It's got a shmoo ring. Finally refer to this as the shmoo. It's got a little bit of a shmoo ring on it. This needs to be cleaned up a little bit. But we know this is working roughly within balance. I think most of its deficiencies are from this coax and from the power wire that was in there. So let's get those two things, three things, little things fixed. Well, yeah, let's get them things fixed. I'm going to take me a little break because I've been talking now for almost over an hour straight, non-stop. We're going to come back. The coaxes are going to be replaced. The power wire will be back in. The faceplate will be cleaned and we'll be ready to reinstall it back onto the face of the amplifier. And we'll go from there. So, we cleaned up our faceplate. And then we applied a decent layer of adhesive to it. So now, match it up like so. Now you only put adhesive on like half the faceplate, because this bottom portion down here, this bottom edge, you don't want to put adhesive on it. All right, and that's way more surface area by doing it that way. So you tape off the front side, then you tape off the back side with painter's tape. Then you come along, you put the spray adhesive on it, and then you let it sit and get really, really tacky, and let it fully flash off, the adhesive fully flash off, and you get all this contact area now on the back of the faceplate, and the faceplate's on there. It's not coming off. It'll last you another 10 years like this. 10, 15 years. So screw the meter on, but that'll hold the whole faceplate in place. But you don't want to put adhesive down here, because all that'll do is collect dirt on the back side of the heatsink, which is counterproductive. Remember, we just got done cleaning this whole thing, getting this whole mess all nice and spotless and pretty and clean again, and getting this all cleaned out. You don't want garbage and dirt and garbage and crap and shit to stick up in here. But in the same breath, we want to have a nice, tight, clean fit to where this doesn't go anywhere. And spray-on adhesive glue works the best. The best. They do make really, really thin double-sided stick tape with like a layer of Mylar or Captain in between that we could put on here and then hand cut out. But really, if you just block this off with tape, block off the backside, and then spray it and let it really set up, it's the best. It's the best way to go. Really, it's the best way to go. It'll stick on there forever. So we did our power wire upgrades on this thing. As you guys can clearly see, we upgraded the driver section power supply, the two final stages, this amp and this amp board. We got rid of, I swear somebody stole, I just dropped shit down inside this amp. Sure did, look at that. I swear somebody stole that old coax out of an old Palomar. This stuff, it's all gone, cleaned up. So now the only thing we've really got left to do other than test run it. Oh, there goes my phone. And it's my beautiful wife. I shall return. Okay. So, let's make sure this is not touching. Oh, come here. Oop, oop. Let's make sure this is not touching. And yeah. So we're about 99% done. Just got her all cleaned up. Let's go ahead and I got my power wires all stripped up here, and we did it away from the amplifier, you guys. So another thing is, don't strip your power wires right next to your amp. That little tiny extra hairs off the power wire can always find a way. They always find a way to get in there and cause problems. Let's go ahead, before I get too carried away, let's test and verify that our new light bulbs are good, and let's get 4 new lights put in here, and let's get our switches all set up. Okay, so we're on high, on the same voltage that we were before, about 12 volt. Hello, audio. Think about 50 watts worth of output increase on the peak side over here, but we're still got hello this issue going on with this thing. So let me show you the problem here. Let's turn the amp off, and I'm going to show you 5 watts going forward. Okay, we're going to look at just this meter here for a minute. So this is our 5 watt slug going in. I mean coming out, and we're reading forward. 1/2 worth of a watt going in is producing, when we go and we key it, $220 watts worth of carrier. Hello, audio. Now let's talk about some basic radio fundamentals here. So, believe it or not, an amplifier can only amplify what you put into it. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter. It can only amplify what you put into it, okay? There are some minimum basics you have to achieve with your radio to be able to have a chance of sounding good, okay? Let's turn the amp off one more time. Let's put the needle in the forward position. Once again, 1/2 watt worth of carrier. That is not enough power to stably produce an AM carrier. It's just a hair shy. Now, I'm sure that this guy has had this amp, and at some point he's hooked up some radio to it, and somebody says, man, you muffled, or you sound distorted, or like you're on sideband. Well, really you are, if you think about it. If we put a 1 watt or a 1/2 watt, hello audio, worth of carrier into the amplifier, it's going to amplify an uneven signal. There's not enough electrical shmoo for there to be a stable amount of carrier level for us to inject AM into, inject the modulation into. So basically we're running like in sideband. So from passively doing this over the years, we found that about 2/3 watt or so to almost a full watt is just enough to where you don't sound too overly choppy. Gives a nice good carrier signal base. Well, let's turn our amp on. We're going to start out with everything in low. We've got 1 watt going in the amp. Let's watch what happens. Hello, audio. 1 watt. Let's pull sideband out. 200 watt carrier. Hello, audio. Now let's go to AM. Hello, audio 1, 2. This isn't safe. This is not safe. I can tell you right now. If I let this go out of here, technically everything is working correctly. This guy will be calling me immediately and saying, hey, BBI, I don't know what's wrong. I hook it up. All my buddies tell me I sound like I'm on sideband. No matter what I do, dead key up, dead key down, it just... But man, I push the AM and the sideband buttons in, it works great. Point is, you should be able to run this without these buttons in. This is high. This is medium. That is low. Just saying. So there's a couple other things in here I want to experiment with. So we've kind of demonstrated a few things to everybody here. One, we're having 4 Toshibas in it. The output on this thing sucks. It sucks. Especially since it's got a driver pill in it. It sucks. I ponder the question, what happens if we take a piece of wire and go from here over to this pin instead of coax? And we pick up all this extra inductor length the way it should be. I wonder if that'll help pick up the output a little bit by bringing it actually into resonance. I don't know. I'm just pondering that question. Please note over here on this amplifier we've got 2 extra tuning capacitors. One here and one here. So we're adding capacitance pre-combiner, sending it through a balanced 50 ohm combiner, and then dropping it onto 50 ohm coax instead of running it down on this outboard trace on the board like it is done on the 667. How much inductor length do you think that affects the circuit? We don't know, but we do know. I know. I'm just posting it to you guys. So now, there's a couple different things that we can do. We can take a resistor and go from here to this pin here, like, I don't know, a 50 ohm 10 watt resistor, and we can drop our input down severely. We can do it after all the attenuation pads over here on this end of the amplifier. We can bring this wire here and bring it down to ground, and then take this resistor here and tie it into here and watch what happens. All of these are different options for us to change how this box operates. But the way it's working right now, with only a half a watt worth of carrier going in, and it's making 250 watts worth of dead key and barely making 500 and falling back in the average position, shit's gotta change, bro. Shit's gotta change. Okay, so I went with a resistor plan, and I added a little bit of a 50 ohm input resistor. I want you to see how it changes how this amplifier works. Now, we did turn our volts up. We're at 14.9. And right now we've got our 5 watt slug going forward. Amplifier is off. We're going to put a watt in it. Put about 1.25 watts in it for dead key. Turn the amp on. And we're going to go all the way down to low. That means all buttons in, okay? Hello, audio. Hello, audio. We're already doing better than our baseline test. So now let's go to medium. Hello, audio. And now let's go to high. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. One little change, and we've got peace of mind knowing that this little 600 is going to go on and keep working for decades to come. And the guy's going to be happy with it. All his buddies that are talking to him are going to be like, man, you sound great. Man, you sound great. And all we had to do was add one little resistor. Now we've scrubbed this thing, we've cleaned it, changed its coax, gave it power wire upgrade, reattached the faceplate, so it's actually on the amp. Actually put washers behind the meter so it's actually bolted onto the face instead of just flopping around loose. Changed out all of your push buttons and actually gave you buttons with labels. Imagine that. And at the end of the day, this thing is good. This is a 1 watt to probably 35, 40 watt carrier radio. And what I mean by that is 1 watt dead key, modulated up to about 35 watts or so. We're hitting this with 20 watts right now. That's it. It's easily making 600 watts of power on high. So remember, medium, low. That's it. Preamp is working. I'm happy. Input tune is good. Output tune is good. It's dead on the money. It's making the watts it should make. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm turning this sucker loose. I'm done with it. The only thing left I got to do is slide on the tin. Easy peasy, just like that. Doesn't even look like the same amp. Yeah, just take a paper towel and buff back the cabinet, and pretty looks like brand new. It's all cleaned up. We're all done. We're gonna call it a day. All the way down here on low. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2. A little bit of medium action. Hello. And a little bit of high. Hello, 1 2. Hello, 1 2. I'm satisfied. This will go on to last another 30 years. Well, guys, on that note, I'm done. I'm out of here. I got a couple others I got to go do. Just thought I'd share these little simple thoughts with you. Gentlemen, my name is BBI. Without a shadow of a doubt, I am the biggest mud duck out here in Idaho. Come check us out, www.bbiamps.com. Come find me on Facebook at BBI Amps, the group. There's like 4,000 of us in there now, 3,000 something of us in there now. Come follow along. More shenanigans to follow, I guarantee you. What's that scene from Super Troopers? I'm gonna pistol whip the next person that says shenanigans. Hey Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like so much? What? You mean